What's good? I am Yish. This is Yish in your ear. Today we start our third-party Nebula library series. We begin our series with Tim P's libraries. Phenomenal. Tim P's libraries are something special. And each one of these third-party library individuals have something special about their sound. But Tim P has a knack for doing things a little different than simply just sampling the hardware. I can't really, give you a lot of detail into his process. You can go to his website and check out his blog. He does cover some things as far as his process goes. But the best way that I can give to you is to show you. Let's get into it.
This is Yish in your ear.
We're going to do things a little bit different here. First of all, we're going to use Reaper, and we're going to kind of go through each track and show you what I did with the plugins. All right. Now, I did find out something very interesting. So one of his plugins is the shape modifier, right? Now, as you can see, this has the readout from Nebula, as well as the controls here at the top. Tim's libraries come with both Nebula 3 as well as Nebula 4 skins. And as I was adding the skins in Nebula setups, some of them I use Nebula 3 and some of them I use Nebula 4. Well, when I used the Nebula 4 skin, and I'm just strictly talking about the skin, this happened. This is the Sum 100 without the interface readout. I was not aware that it could do that. I'm glad that it can. And mind you, this is Nebula 3 only. I don't think this is available in Nebula 4 because, again, I'm only using Nebula 3. All right. But I was able to load the Nebula 4 scan here, and essentially it looks like just a single standalone plugin. But again, what you're looking at is the Nebula plugin scanned, right? So the Nebula plugin, of course, looks like this, and this is a skin itself. All right, but enough of that. So let's play the kick drum here with nothing on it. All right, that's it by itself. All right, so this is the shape modifier for the sustain portion of the signal. As you can see, you have the actual sustain control. You have the output control, a wet, dry mix knob, the input, the output. All right, down here, you really don't need to pay attention to this because this is not important for this plugin. Again, the Nebula 3 plugins have this readout when it's normally scanned. All right, over here we have the shape of the sustain, and as you can see, it shows you the way in which the process corresponds to the shape of the actual sustain. All right, so this is more quick and this one is a little bit more slow. So this is the duration. All right, how long? So this is a long duration, this is a short duration. All right, pretty straightforward, plus a power button. All right, so let's see what this sounds like on our kick. All right. So that's a shape modifier. Again, this is Nebula, so it's separated between the sustain and the attack. So this is the attack one. Not a whole lot. So I wanted to bring back some of the original attack and give it a slightly rounded sound. All right. Similar controls. You have the actual attack control here, output, wet, dry, input, output meters. Over here you have the shape. All right. And then you have the detection. All right, very simple. So the next thing we have is the gyrator. And this is a EQ plugin. So we have 12 decibels of gain at 60 hertz, but then we also filtered it at 70 hertz. So let's see what that sounds like. Let's engage. All right. Gave a nice low end bump. All right. So that's the gyrator. Now this comes with several presets. So you have the actual preamp, the high frequencies, the low frequencies, and the mid frequencies. And they're, of course, represented over here when you load each independent one. That's the gyrator plugin. This is the Sum 100. This is one of my favorite plugins. This is actually the first plugin that I purchased from his libraries. All right, so we have the gain reduction knob. We have the on-off switch, of course, the reduction meter, gain meter, overload meter. You have a high pass sort of side chain filtering here, and you have a dry knob to add in more of the original signal. And mind you, the high pass means that as you move this up, right, it will affect less of the low end. So let's take a listen at what we did here. So again, without, and let's engage it. All right. It's heavy, I know. But that's what we did for the kick. And those are the plugins that we used on the kick. This is a very nice plugin. This is the enhancer. This comes with two separate presets. So this is the harmonic preset, and then you have the mid-band preset. All right. So the mid-band gives you something a little different. It gives you actual mid-tones as well as sub-bass. All right. I don't think I used the mid-band on this record. I only used the harmonics. All right. So let's see what we have here. This is the hat. It's a little sloppy, but it's okay. And this is the hat with the enhancer. I'll do an A/B. It's off. Here's on. All right. It's just a little high end on there. Next up is the complex expander. This thing is beautiful, man. Wait till I get to the snare. Going over the controls, the input, the output. You have a high pass filter that works sort of in the same way as what was on the 100A. You have, of course, the look ahead again. You also have the attack here. So fast, medium, and slow. All right. You have 3 different ratio options, and I believe they do work in between. All right. So it's interpolated just a little bit. Not a lot of options on this, and you really don't need it when you hear it. The threshold. All right. So the higher you go up on the threshold, the more it pulls the sound down. The range, all right, you have max and you have where it's actually disengaged when it's out. The release, hold, and then you have the bypass button here, in and out. So let's see what this sounds like with the complex expander on. All right, so as you can see, it removed the room sound, right? The snare. Here is the snare without. All right, we used a little bit of enhancer. Not a lot. All right. We also used X filter. It's a rather simple filter, but it does the job very well. All right. You have low cut, you have high cut. All right. In, out meters. All right. And then in, out volume knobs. So here we did a cut. So let's see what I did with X filter. So this is before. All right. Here's after. So all that low end. All right, we took that out. This is Surge EQ. Surge EQ comes with a number of options here. So you have the high shelf, the high bell, the low shelf, and the low bell. And then you also get two interpolated options as well, which allows you to have a Q available. We did a boost of 7.58 decibels at 15.42 kilohertz. All right, and let's see what that sounds like. All right, so more high end. All right, again, we have the Sum 100A before, after. So a few decibels of reduction, sometimes a little more. All right. All right, now for the complex expander, this is where it made the most difference, in my opinion, on the snare. So before, and after. All right. It really gave the snare more tightness. All right, but then we also used the complex gate, all right, to even tighten it up even more. So this comes with, of course, the input, output, the high pass filter, the look ahead, the attack, just like on the other one. This time it has the threshold, the range, the release, and the hold. It does not have a ratio change on it. All right, so this is just the gate. So let's see what that sounds like. So this again before. All right, and here's after. All right, so as you can see, it really cut out the kick drum leakage. Again, before. It's quite prevalent. After. Very nice. All right. And so that is the snare drum with plugins. All right. Now for the toms, we use the Surge EQ as well as the shape modifier for the attack. So let's see what the toms sound like. With the Surge EQ, low bell, interpolated. So just pulled out some of the low end, 47 hertz, dropped it 11, 12 decibels. Again, before, after. With the shape modifier, we wanted to round the attack a little bit. So let's see what it sounds like. All right, again, this is before. All right, here's after. Just a little bit. All right, that is our toms. Let us move on to the instruments. So we have the bass in here. All right. That's the bass. We have a rhythm guitar that we used, and the rhythm guitar sounds like this. And then the first one we have here is, of course, the Surge EQ, as you can see. Just cleaned up the low end. All right, here's before. Then after. This is actually a bass instrument. All right. So that's the Surge EQ. Next, we put some shape modifier on it. This is for the attack, just to soften it up just a smidget. May not even be able to hear it, but here we go. Just a little bit, right? Next is the X filter. We did some more additional low end cut. That's before. All right, here's after. So give it that real cut through sound, right? Then we used Tim's U76. Here is what we did with the U76. Again, here is before. And here it is after. Heavy reduction. I just wanted to give it some motion, right? That was the whole point of using that. And then last but not least, we also used the complex expander as well on this. So again, this is before. All right, and then here is after. All right, so as you can see, it just gave it a little tightness. All right, so that is the rhythm guitar. Next, we have the distorted guitar, and that sounds like this. All right, now this first plugin is a Reverb plugin, so we don't need to touch on that. But we use the X filter here. Cut out the low end. It's after. Again, this is before. All right. That's the X filter. We use the gyrator to boost the high end. Before. All right. That's a gain of 4.8, almost 5, 12 kilohertz. 12 kilohertz. That should be kilohertz. All right, because this is the high. All right. And then we use the enhancer here. So this is before. All right, then after. So it's really, really cutting through. All right. Also used a proximity plug-in to give it some stereo. All right, so that is the distorted guitar. We didn't use anything for the waka, but that's what that sounds like. All right, it's a little bit of chicken picking. We didn't use anything for the pluck here, but that is this. All right, so that is the pluck. Now for the organ, before. All right. All right, so we use some surge EQ with 5-6 decibels of reduction at 5.6 kilohertz with a 1.23 Q. Before. All right. After. And a small boost here on the gain. All right. We also did some compression before. Fast attack, fast release. Here's after. And actually, now that I'm listening, I'm going to back off that release a little bit. There we go. These next few ones here, I want to go over them. This is the classic. I did not use this, but I will let you hear what it sounds like. Before. Here's after. All right. There's adjustable rate and a wet and dry mix knob. All right, power switch. Of course, your input and output volume knobs. All right, that is classic vibe chorus. Here is more phase before. Here's after. Oh, that's nice actually right there. It's just a little slower than what I was looking for, but I like the phase effect it has though. All right. All right, that's that. All right, and then we have script 90. All right, so let's see what that sounds like. Very washy sounding. Like that. All right, that's script 90. Now, before I move on, let me actually pull back up Classic 5 because I forgot to mention with the phaser plugins, you do get additional options in here for speed and various levels of quality, right? More phase. All right, lots of options in here. Matter of fact, let me just see what we have here, yes? Wow. See, that's what I get for not digging into the extra presets. These are very nice. Let me switch it up, see what this one sounds like. Yes. Very, very, very nice. Very nice, man. These phasers are nice. Script 90. This just has a fast and slow. Very nice, man. Goodness. Man, y'all better go take a look at Tim's libraries. All right, the one I did decide to use here is Stone Phase. All right, so again, before. And then after. I really like this sound for this organ. It mixes up the the already Leslie and additional effects that the plugin itself already had on it, right? Again, rate, wet, dry, overload, gain in, gain out, bypass button, right? Just like on a foot pedal. Again, you don't need to worry about anything going on up here. Your main focus is down here. All right? That is the organ and all of the plugins that I use for that. So let me play the vocals here so you hear what they sound like before the independent processing. I know you wanna be the one. All right, this is a little something I slapped together. All right. Gotta learn how to roll till we win. Okay, and then the independent processing we did for each one of those buses sounds like this. I know you wanna be the one. Gotta learn how to ride till the end. Gotta learn how to roll. So let me A-B it. So this is on. And you'll see me hit the bypass. Gotta learn how to ride till the end. Gotta learn how to roll till we win. It's very subtle, and it's mostly just tape and EQ, right? All right, so I'll leave those on. Let's talk about the vocal bus. We have a complex expander. I know you wanna be the one. Just to tighten it up a little bit. we kind of push the in-between syllables and sections back a little bit so it's not so loud. All right. Next, we use the Surge EQ. This is before. I know you wanna be the one. And then this is after. I know so we rob some of the low end. All right. Gotta learn how to ride to the end. Gotta learn how to roll till we win. All right. And we did some gyrator in here. So before. I know you wanna be the one. All right. So then after we did almost 3 decibels at 12. I know you wanna be the one. Gotta learn how to ride to the end. Gotta learn how to roll to. And I believe the reasoning for that was because of the way that the tape libraries kind of softened the highs. We did that to kind of reintroduce some of the high end. All right. And then finally for the vocal bus, we put the Sum 100 on here. All right. So let's see what that sounds like. Before. I know you wanna be the one. Okay. All right. Gotta learn how to ride to the end. All right, and here's after. I know you wanna be the one. Gotta learn how to ride to the end. All right, let me jump back. For the U76, you get the various ratios. You get the infamous all button ratio. You get 12, you get 20, you get 4, you get 8-to-1. And then, of course, you have sidechain options in here as well. All right, so those are the different libraries for the U76. You get, of course, the attack, the release, the peak reduction itself, which as a threshold setting, so to speak, is more convenient and just allows more flexibility. Of course, you have the internal sidechain here, high pass filter. All right, the output, the input, and of course the dry knob, which allows you to reintroduce the original signal into the signal path. At the end here, we have the on-off switch. So what we also used was the Grand Room reverb. Very nice. Gain in. You have the wet, dry mix knob. You have the distance. All right. Over here you have the mic array. All right. And then the pre-delay. Power button. This does not come with an option to change the length of the reverb, but there are ways to do that outside of Nebula that can be utilized. Now we have the Y-E1010 analog delay. All right, so we use that primarily on the pluck. This is before. All right, after. You have gain in, gain out. You have the delay amount. The time. Down to 10 milliseconds. Original signal. And then of course down here you have the on and off button. All right. And that is the analog delay YE1010 or Y-E1010. The other delay is the modern classic analog delay. All right, so that sounds like this. So we have gain in, delay, and feedback, and then the on-off switch. Whew. All right, so after a great deal of overview, let us take a listen at the track as a whole, before and after. Not bad, rather dry. All right, now here is the record after 10P's processing. Now, before I let you guys go, I did want to touch on the bus compressor with the pre. Kind of wanted you to hear the T-tape and the T-tape saturation library, right? So let's do that, all right? Nice and punchy. What's to be expected of a SSL bus compressor? It's too much. 2 to 3 decibels is really all you need for getting a glue track, right? Back that off some, just up here. We have the pre on. Now if you're listening, unmistakable. With it off, it's not as expensive and tight sounding. Listen. All right. T-tape. We're at 7.5 inches per second. That's why you hear a shaving of the high end. Drive it a little bit. Drive it all the way. Give it some gain. Well, we'll back off the gain. Okay. Bypass. Listen at the bottom end. Print. Hear that? The delay. A little bit don't hurt. Very subtle.
And then the saturation. Now let me stop the record for the saturation. First of all, I was unaware that Tim had somehow found a way to model saturation in the Nebula world. I know now. So let's take a listen at what this sounds like. All right, this is a Nebula library again now. So we have the threshold, makeup, and gain in. Very simple control, all right? Makeup, all right? Gain in, all right? This sucker here, yes. Let me switch that. Before. Nice glue. As one of the original third-party developers, Tim P is a reason to get Nebula 4. You can acquire all of the libraries that you've seen in this video at timpetherick.co.uk. So that concludes my review of Tim Petherick's libraries for Nebula 4. Keep your eye out for the Nebula 4 player coming very soon. And with that, leave a like, try not to leave a dislike, leave a comment, I do comment back, but most importantly, hit that subscribe button. You've been watching Yish in your ear. Stay tuned.